Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 5th, 2017 Take Action webinar, where we will talk about how to make great blasts. This will be I'm Shelley Williams, and I'm the Administrative Coordinator for Move to Amend, and I think, talked to everyone I can see who has joined this call. So this is my first time doing a webinar, so I've done a lot of one-on-one stuff with all of you. So I'm really excited to do more group education on something I'm really excited to share with you all. So it's going to be a two-part webinar. We will kind of go through a general walkthrough of HIVE and how to use HIVE just to make a blast. So if you don't know how to do that, or you want to know a little bit more about the features in HIVE that will allow you to, do a little more with your blasts, we'll do that. We'll also talk about making custom lists, and then we will go into more of a slideshow presentation where we'll talk about ideas for, subject lines and content style and things to consider when you're trying to engage your base more effectively. So let's see. Okay, so webinar orientation and participation tips. You should be hearing audio now. If you're not, you can call one of these numbers that's listed here. But I'm sure it sounds like everyone's doing okay. We haven't had any questions about audio, so I'm going to assume that's all fine. If you have questions, there's a chat bar at the bottom that you can use. We will probably save more general Q&A for the end, but if there is a question that comes up, Tara Ingram from our national leadership team is also helping facilitate this webinar, and she will be kind of keeping an eye on those questions. And if there's something that is really relevant, maybe an important thing that I overlooked that shouldn't wait till the end, I'm going to give space after each slide to just see if there are any questions that should be answered more urgently, but otherwise we'll save those for the end. And if you have any technical difficulties, you can also use that chat bar, but there might be things that are maybe out of our, we're not tech support for Zoom. This is a separate webinar service that we use, and so you can also email them directly, especially if you want to continue using our webinars and joining our webinars live. You would want to work with Zoom to make sure that your application is working properly. So the agenda for this webinar, we'll do a quick overview of Move to Amend, as we do for all of our webinars. And then we will do the HIVE Blast Making 101. So I'm going to screen share with you. We'll start even with just a regular logging in to HIVE, and then going into the blast making feature, and then we'll talk a little bit about doing searches and lists as well if you want to make a targeted group for a particular blast. And then after that, we'll go into a presentation about tips for making effective blasts. So we'll talk about audience considerations, subject line, style, content. We'll show some examples of blasts that other affiliate groups have done that look really nice, and might give you some ideas of how you might be able to improve your own style, and maybe ideas, of different ways to engage folks. And then we'll do the Q&A section at the end. So our mission, as you know, Move to Amend is a coalition of hundreds of organizations and hundreds of thousands of individuals committed to social and economic justice, ending corporate rule, and building a vibrant democracy that is genuinely accountable to the people and not to corporate interests. Our goals are to, of course, pass the We the People Amendment to make clear that artificial entities do not have constitutional rights, and that money is not free speech. And then our other goal is to provoke discussion and organizing about how to make real the promise of American democracy through constitutional renewal. Our principles and values: number 1, anti-oppression and solidarity organizing; 2, coalition and movement building; 3, grassroots organizing; 4, dedication to political education, and 5, political and economic independence. So now we'll do the Hive tutorial. If you don't already have a Hive admin account, the same account is what allows you to update your affiliate web page as well. It's not necessary to follow along for this webinar, but if you don't already have one and you want to apply, here is the address that you can use to do that. And then we'll also follow up by email with a link to everyone who attended. And I also did send an email to everyone who is on our affiliate email list with instructions and links to do that, I think yesterday. So it's movetoamend.org/forms/admin-account-application. And I will move on now. Oh, so, okay, so we're going to actually do the tutorial now. So I'm going to jump out of here. And so we'll just start with logging in. So you're going to go to movetoamend.org, just our website, and scroll all the way down to the bottom to this red space. And here's your affiliate admin login that you'll click. Your username is usually going to be your first and last name, then your password. So I'm going to log in here. And that will take you to the affiliate support page, which has a tremendous amount of resources. If you haven't spent a lot of time in here, I highly recommend getting very familiar with this page. But for today's purposes, we're going to go to Affiliate Hive. Some other relevant things right below would be Hive instructions. Those are written instructions. The application for an admin account is also here as well, and there's all kinds of other stuff. But for here, we're going to go to where it says all caps with the little arrow. At some point, we might make it a little more salient so it'll jump out, but for now, that was kind of the best we could do. And so we'll click there, Affiliate Hive. It usually takes a little while to load. Sometimes a lot of a while. But we know it's working. So Hive itself doesn't work that slowly, but it is just that jump from the affiliate support page over to Hive that can take a few moments. So here we go. So this is your main screen that you'll have when you log into Hive. A lot of you are probably already familiar with this, but for Blast, there's all kinds of stuff in here, but Submit to National is going to be the menu you'll go to because we're going to be submitting a blast to National, i.e. me or Ambrosia are usually the ones who process those. So we will click on Email Blast Request. So that takes you to the Email Blast Request screen. So basically, you've got your subject line, and here's the body. One thing I want to show you before we do all of this is what the back end, I mean, I know that you all probably receive your own blasts if you've sent those before, but it's really good to keep in mind a few things as you're doing this. So I have this example here of a blast. It says Civ email draft because it was a test that I had sent to myself, but this was an email blast that had gone out to volunteers in the Minneapolis area. So just so you know, you can do that. You can send out a blast that doesn't go to your entire base in your defined area, but maybe just the people who signed up to be volunteers, so you can target that group. And so that's what this is. They actually did a spaghetti dinner, a free spaghetti dinner for everyone who had recently signed up to volunteer in Minneapolis. But when basically this is the body, this is the part they did, Everything else will happen automatically on our end. So you don't have to do any kind of greeting. It's going to automatically say, dear so-and-so, because it will auto-populate their first name. You'll have a banner that's custom. This little thing will be here. And then the sender will say, you know, your affiliate name. And then here will be the subject line. The subject line is probably a little too long. One thing that could have been taken out, and this is something I can do, but sometimes when I'm too busy, I don't really have time to do all of that. But I could have taken out move to amend, because that's redundant. Because if you look over here, this is the way it looks, not the civ email draft. That wouldn't be there. But the sender already shows Minneapolis move to amend. So there's no reason to really reiterate that in the subject line. They can already see who it's coming from. So, and then at the bottom, it will, you know, have links to your affiliate webpage, etc. Another thing in this case that's good to point out is they put their email address on here, which is fine, but also if anyone responded directly to this email, it would go back to Minneapolis at movetoamend.org. So, so it's not, you know, just keep in mind that that's already, you know, if they respond back to it, it's gonna come right back to your affiliate email. So, so back to, let's see, here. So we just want to do a subject line. So, you know, this is going to not be a clear email. I'm going to show you just some of the most common like formatting tools that we have here. So ignore the content. I'm just going to be saying random stuff. So join us for a subject line. And please mark your calendars for the special event. And then, so we have here all of these different sizes and styles of text. So you might want to say pizza party, and then when, Tuesday, January 5th, time, maybe that would say date under when, but time 5:30 p.m., location, Minneapolis Peace and Justice Center. So to kind of give it a little format, we might, you know, highlight these or the other way around. So that kind of gives it, you know, makes it pop a little bit more. What we want to do is avoid just paragraphs. So you want to be using your spacing, your bolding, italics, underline, and maybe in this case, we want to put a link to the Minneapolis Peace and Justice Center, and we'll pretend that this is the website, and I'm going to copy the link. So pretend that this is the Minneapolis Peace and Justice Center website. And I'll come back over here and I want to do a hyperlink so they can click on it. It'll take them to the website. They can see where it is. So we highlight this. So a hyperlink is when you are in an email or on a website, and it's usually like often a blue color contrasting with the other text, and you click on it and it takes you to another place. And those are very useful. We don't want to overuse them, but we do want to use them. So here we have it highlighted. We want to hyperlink the website to the Minneapolis Peace and Justice Center, and we've copied you know, Minneapolis Peace and Justice Center.org onto our clipboard. And we go over to this little guy, and this is like, I think of it as like a World Wide Web link. I think that's what it's supposed to be, like the little globe. So we click on that, and that will bring up the URL. So you can either paste what's on your clipboard if you are fluent in, you know, Control C and Control V and all of that. Or if you know the website, you can say www.Minnesota Peace and Justice Center.org. I don't think that's a real address, but we click OK, and then there it is. So then when it comes through, they can click on that and get the information that they need. So maybe we want to talk about what kinds of refreshments are going to be there. We probably want a nice header for that. So we'll do heading number 2. And we have numbered lists and bulleted lists that can be really useful. So we will have pizza, soda, beer, breadsticks. And so there's a pizza party. Well, maybe we can only get one email blast out this month, and so we kind of need to make it newsletter style. Not always super recommended. Wherever possible, if you can do more targeted, single focused, you know, with a call to action emails, but not everyone has capacity. So maybe you want to do a newsletter style. Of course, you would want to make sure they know it's a newsletter earlier in the email, but and you want to separate it out and talk about something else now. So you would hit return or like that. And then this little thing here is a line. And so we use these a lot. And that creates a line that will separate, and you can start a new thing there. And maybe this time you want it to be centered. So this, you know, keeps everything, or, you know, from left to right. This would be from right to left. And then if we want to center it, it'll do that. So we might now say, join us at the climate rally. And since this is a header, we would definitely want to highlight it and make it a lot bigger. And so I would say that those are probably kind of the main features that you can use to spruce things up. You know, there's underline, italics, but those are going to be if you're, you know, if you are writing some paragraphs, you will want to bold some words, make some italics, you know, to kind of bring attention to the most important things and make it more engaging. So I think that's probably, and then here this little arrow allows you to go back. So if you wanted to, so that took the italics out. If you wanted to bring them back, you can get it back again, but we can keep doing that back and forth. And there's other features here, but most of them are just not very oft used, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if you do have anybody who's really good at coding, that's, you know, what this little source thing is for. And I'm not going to go into all that because for most folks, they're not ever going to be using that. But if you are good at it, we strongly recommend that you use those skills, and it's possible to do that with this Hive blast making feature. So after we've made our beautiful, not so beautiful, but I think I showed you the important stuff, blast, we are going to go down here and decide what the priority is. In most cases, hopefully, it's been enough advance notice where it's normal, but there might be some cases where it's urgent. If it's urgent, I would also recommend sending an email to affiliate support. So that's affiliate-support@movetoamend.org. I think most of you are familiar with that way to get in touch with us, but it's always good to let us know if there's an urgent blast in there, just in case we, you know, miss it. We want to know. So the requested schedule date, you can select this way, or you can click on the little calendar and pick it that way. So we're going to pick, you know, December 13th, and then it auto populates. You can pick your requested time, and then your target group. So your affiliate contacts, if you are an active affiliate, you already have what's called a SMART group. That's usually based on a list of zip codes that you gave to us at some point. And that is going to capture every new, you know, petition signer that you submit who's in that list of zip codes will be added to that list. And so that's, you know, usually what you're going to be selecting. Or you might select state contacts if you, say, are doing some kind of thing at the Capitol, or you want to get them to, you know, call their senator about something, then in those cases, it might make more sense to send a blast out to the entire state. And then my affiliate volunteers, which I think I talked about that a little bit earlier, but you can do that as well. So if you only want to target petition signers who have also indicated an interest in volunteering, you can select that. And then other, you know, there's, I think the most common example of other would be if you were going to be reaching out to folks in a particular legislative district, or, you know, just a city if you're trying to get them to come out to a city council thing, or something like that. So you can actually do those lists yourself, or we can help you with them, but I'll show you how to do that after this. And then pictures. It's really, really, really recommended to include photos wherever possible. If you have really good photos from, you know, actions that you have done or your group all together, those can be really compelling and kind of give a face to what you're doing and make it more, you know, compelling and relatable, and help people feel like there's actually people on the other end. Or you might include photos of, you know, local representatives that you're trying to get their attention and, or get folks to call them. You would put, you know, it's a good practice is to put their picture into the email, and then maybe put a little link and use that hyperlink feature that I showed you, that will allow them to directly contact that representative. And I can show you some of the examples of that later on. But you can include up to 2 pictures. And then if you have any additional comments, just, you know, fill those in here. But that is basically how that works. And so I will now show you how to create groups. So, you know, we can do those for you. That's not a problem if you, you know, don't feel comfortable using that feature, since it's not often that custom groups are going to be made. But I can just give you a quick overview of how that works once this loads up. So, so maybe you want to just reach folks who are in a certain city. So maybe we want to do a blast that only goes out to folks in the city of Tuscaloosa. So Tuscaloosa proper, and that'll be under Alabama State Network. And I'll just do test. And so we'll create that group. And so now it's there. There's nobody in it yet, but we have created a space to put all of these folks. So it says here, Tuscaloosa proper, created and affiliated with Alabama MTA State Network. So when you're doing that, it's going to give you the option to pick what state, you know, what state network to attach it to. Obviously, you're going to pick your own state, but in this case, we're doing Alabama. So, and here, if we do Tuscaloosa, this is auto-populating one zip code, but basically we just want it to say the city and state. And, you know, in most cases, if we're trying to get them to come out to a city council meeting, we're going to, you know, contact everybody. But say we want to find folks who are specifically interested in, you know, phone banking. We can do that too. There's also, there's all these other tags of, you know, if they're affiliated with other organizations, committees and caucuses. Less likely you're going to use any of those. Volunteer is probably going to be the most likely. But you can also just do general volunteers without selecting a tag with a specific area of interest by just clicking volunteer. So then we apply. Well, I guess that was maybe a little silly to do that because there aren't going to be, so. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Well, let's see if we highlight all of them, then we should. Oh, command click. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Tara. She came in and showed me how to fix that. So now we are going to apply, and there should be some folks here. So these are all of the people, 19 people in the city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, who not only signed the petition, but indicated an interest in volunteering. And so those are, we can make a custom list of those folks. And so we'll add to group. Oh, we have to click here, and that auto selects everybody, sorry. So we want to click here, or if we want to pick specific people, you know, we can do that. But in this case, we want everybody. We want to add them to group. And then we made that group earlier, right? Tuscaloosa proper. So we'll find, so here it is right here. Click. Next. And do we want to do that? Yes, we do. So I'll go back and delete that group later, but that's, you know, how you do that. And then if you were going to be doing, you know, like a legislative district, you know, that's also really helpful. So you can send me the list of the zip codes for that district. That's one way to do it, but you can also do it yourself. And so when you are typing in, this detail is probably a little more difficult to remember, but you want to do 95826, comma, no space, 95818, comma, no space, and then so on and so forth. And that's going to get you, you know, everybody in that particular set of zip codes. So any questions about any of that that cannot wait until the end? I'll leave a little space for that. But that's basically how to use Hive to create blasts and then custom lists should you want to do that. All right. Okay, let's see here. All right, so let's go back into this presentation. So now we'll talk about tips for making effective blasts. So things that we want to consider is who is our audience. We want to, you know, definitely think about the subject line. That's kind of the make or break. That's going to, you know, whether they open it or not. And subject lines matter a lot. So we'll talk about things to consider when you're coming up with your subject line. We'll talk about content, style, and then give some examples of really nice looking blasts that some of our affiliate groups have done. Okay, so I'll come back to that question at the end from Greg. Okay, so audience. Our list breaks down into many demographics across age, sexuality, race, and political ideology. But the characteristic that they share the most is busy activist, which I think we can all relate to. So content is going to need to be easy for a busy activist to assimilate. It should contain an action, and it should relate directly to our mission. The information in a blast, it should be relevant to all levels of MTA involvement. So if you're sending a blast that's going out to your whole base, you know, you want to be thinking about the person who just, you know, saw you, you know, tabling somewhere 4 years ago and signed the petition, but doesn't really maybe know that much about Move to Amend. Maybe they forgot or don't think about it that much. But maybe that one time you put a really compelling subject line and they opened that email. And, you know, now you want to catch their attention. So, you know, sending out, say, meeting minutes or, you know, just kind of dry meeting notifications, things like that. You know, we kind of want to avoid that because that can actually result in unsubscribes. And one thing I didn't say earlier that I meant to when we were talking about, you know, why we don't send out blasts on the same day from a local group if we're sending out a national blast is because that person is going to get 2 blasts from Move to Amend on the same day. And that's the #1 reason people unsubscribe. So we want to be really making sure that we're not doing things that are going to result in folks either thinking we are spamming them or that we're sending stuff that isn't super interesting. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Custom lists can be made for target groups, so petition signers who also signed up to volunteer or constituents in a particular congressional district. So subject line. There's been a lot of research done on subject lines, and Tara compiled some, and I did as well, and it kind of seems like the general idea is the shorter the better. So the subject line should not exceed 40 characters, including spaces. So that's a good rule of thumb. The shorter, the better. And then don't give away the subject matter with the subject line if you can, unless it is an email that people are expecting. So a reminder, invitation, announcements. But the subject should be reflective of the contents and clever enough to elicit curiosity. And we'll give some examples after this slide of what those might look like. And then think about your own experience. Don't we all just ignore some emails that come through and open others? And why would we open one email and not another? So subject line, found this kind of neat little list of effective words and ineffective words that they had done some market research on. So if you put free in there, that's a great thing to do. So if you're doing a legalized democracy screening or some other film screening, make sure you put free in the subject line. People pay attention to that. If you're going to be serving food, you know, anytime that there is something to get, maybe you're giving away, you know, some buttons or stickers. I mean, any way that you can make something say free, that seems to be a really good one. Tomorrow, of course, that would require, you know, being close in touch with me or Ambrosia at Affiliate Support to make sure that if we're doing it that way, that we're timing it correctly. But putting tomorrow in a subject line is pretty effective. Alert, 61.8% increase in open rates. So, you know, say there's some, you know, state, you know, maybe there's some kind of legislation that's going through. I mean, there's different reasons why we might want to use the word alert if something urgent is going on, you know, whether it's federally or locally, you know, there's opportunity to use that word and hopefully get some clicks. Sale, new, video, probably not super relevant to us. And daily or weekly, so, you know, if you did want to do newsletters, Don't do monthly according to this, but daily probably is too much. If you can do a weekly newsletter, that that's requires some capacity, but that seems to be an effective word to use. Quick, meeting, newsletter, monthly, those are all ineffective words. So just saying like, monthly meeting, which is a pretty common subject line for a lot of folks. And it's logical, you're having a monthly meeting, but that is not compelling and people are not super likely to open that. So here are some examples of subject lines. Join us tomorrow. If you're just doing a meeting reminder, there are ways that you can say that are more exciting than meeting reminder. But here are just some examples of really exciting subject line examples, and tell them what you think. If you're trying to get folks to contact their local reps, instead of saying contact your local reps, something that alludes to what the call to action is, but doesn't give it away so that they're like, what does that mean? And then they want to open it. So just be, exclamation points, free, and just clever, short, brief ways of, kind of encapsulating what the call to action is that's going to be inside the email. Style. So the first sentence of the first paragraph is the most important sentence. And then the last sentence in the last paragraph is the second most important sentence. So, you want to make those exciting. And hot links, which we talked about, we want to use them, but we want to use them sparingly. And then bolding and italics for emphasis. So, I put those in there so that you could see, it's aesthetically appealing to see this. It's, everything is simple, with some emphatic formatting, and all of this reads really easily and everything jumps out at you and you don't have to work that hard to understand what the point is. So we want to do that in our blasts as well. And also avoiding we don't want too many paragraphs, but if you're going to do paragraphs, definitely break it up with some formatting variations, and to draw attention to the most important words or pieces, and then using hot links. So I just picked a goofy photo, but you want to, put relevant photos and images, and use high resolution. I thought this was actually a pretty good quality photo and kind of funny. Obviously, pretty inappropriate for our blasts, but it looks nice and it's eye-catching. And so, especially if we're doing something that has a few paragraphs, breaking it up with pictures is really a good practice. So I see that there's a question that might make sense to go ahead and, okay, yes. Do you recommend images to be inserted, or can we insert them ourselves? So you can. I didn't want to bog down the training too much with that, because it's you have to upload the pictures to the server, and I don't know. I just don't think it's the most straightforward process. But I can go back and kind of show you that a little bit. But if you add the pictures in the way, where the way that I showed you to, just attaching them, and then in the notes say, I want this to be after this, or maybe you don't care and I can kind of pepper them in there in a way that looks right, that's fine. But I can go back at the end and just give you all a really quick tutorial on how to insert your own pictures if you feel like you want to do that. And thanks, Greg, for that question. So that, yeah, there's two ways to do the pictures. And I only showed you one. So yeah, including photos wherever possible. Another thing to keep in mind is that nearly half of all emails are opened on smartphones. So it's good to keep that in mind. If all of the print is just that the font size is that normal font size, it's just not going to be super readable on the phone. So you want to make sure that you're, having some large font size, and then also, just like you would anyway, putting bolding and things like that so that it's super readable. And then make the call to action obvious and easy to tap and close to the top wherever possible. So calls to action are going to be the most engaging way to reach your base. So, letting them know about meetings is fine. Not everybody wants to go to meetings. Some people want to do other things, and so finding other ways to engage them is a really good idea. So inviting them to help table and petition at a specific event is a really, really great idea. We've seen that, really result in some, new volunteers. And so when you do that, make sure, because some folks might be like, I don't know a lot about this issue, and I don't know if I feel comfortable just going up and out, so to make them feel really comfortable and confident in coming out that they're going to be supported in what they're doing, be clear that expertise isn't needed, that you'll provide support, and that makes it less intimidating. Always, urge them to call their legislator. And in some places, there's some really hot legislators to be pursued. So, if you're in one of those areas, make sure you do that as much as possible. And, like I said, including a photo and a link that's going to directly take them to where they can do that is really a great idea. And then if you have specific volunteer talents that are needed, say, you don't really have folks in your group who are super tech savvy, or super, experienced with social media, confident in phone banking, that kind of thing, making like really specific asks for things that you need help with, then people can see themselves in the work. If it's just, come to a meeting, sometimes people don't really know what that means. And so giving really clear, calls for specific talents, might result in people going, well, I'm pretty good at that. And then they might come out. So just some ideas. So this is a really pretty example this is a newsletter style, which we don't always recommend doing it this way. But if you can only get out one email a month, then do it this way. So this is just part of it. We'll go through the different pieces of it, but it kind of just gives some really great examples. So this is, their monthly meeting at the top, and, really clear formatting and easy to read. And then it goes into the next section where they're talking about, at the time, we've got 51 now, but at the time it was 50. And so they are giving an update to their supporters on how the We the People amendment is doing in Congress. And so that's really exciting. So we will jump over here, and you can see that they kind of go into just some different blurbs. And then what I've alluded to that I think looks really beautiful, the take action, call your senators. So, we inserted the two senators in Oregon, and those little contact Wyden and contact Merkley, those will take them directly to the senators, like contact us page. And so it makes it very easy. It's a one-step thing. And so that's a really strongly recommended thing to include wherever possible. And then we've got Schrader is somebody who signed the pledge to amend. And I think they did a really good job. Where is Schrader? You know, and making sure that we're keeping our pledgers accountable. And so this was a really good idea to have all of their readers be able to easily contact Schrader and also be able to say, you pledged to amend, why haven't you co-sponsored HJR 48? So it's, you know, educating the base that this, you know, this is what your representative said that they would do. So let's put the pressure on. And then, you know, there's the bottom of the email. So, you know, there's a lot of, you know, breakup in the font and color and not too much to where it's too busy. But, you know, just enough to, you know, have everything kind of salient and pop out and really easy to digest this. So I thought it was a really good example. And this was another blast example of a specific call to action. And the reason I'm including this is not because the formatting is dazzling, but because this, this particular blast resulted in one of our most dedicated volunteers. So, you know, we went and petitioned at the California Democratic Party State Convention over the summer. And I was the one who got the call from somebody who had received this email and, you know, wanted to know more specifics. And so I gave those details to her. And so you can see in here, this formatting, as you go further down, I couldn't include, you know, the full thing. So I had to cut it up into different pieces. But this is what it looked like down here. So it kind of broke up, you know, obviously this is in May. So there was a lot of stuff going on. And all of these little blue things were hyperlinks, so, you know, people could find out more about where something was or what the event was and go to the actual event page. But, you know, just really clear instructions and broken up and all of that. And so the reason I included this is because, you know, the woman's name was Megan. And so this was back in May. And Megan showed up, and I don't know. I don't know how many dozens of signatures she gathered with a really bad knee. And she just was, I mean, everybody said it was just like this person came out of nowhere and just like crushed it. And she did so much work. And now she is a core member of the Sacramento chapter of Move to Amend. And she is also a weekly volunteer here at the national office. And so she comes in every Wednesday and helps input, you know, handwritten petition sheets that get mailed into us, which we need a lot of help with because we get backed up on those sometimes. And she's very dedicated. And so this email with a really clear call to action, you know, resulted in one of the most valuable dedicated volunteers on both, you know, the national and in the local affiliate group. And so, you know, giving people ideas of how to get involved and, you know, helping them feel a part of is really, really important and can result in, you know, growing your core membership of your group. So, anyway, that wraps up the webinar presentation. So I'm going to go into the Q&A and leave some time here for folks who might have any questions. And you can ask those in your little chat bar below. I see maybe we've got one here. Okay, none on the list at the moment. I'll give a few more minutes. And then in the meantime, you know, if there's any questions that pop up later, I see one that came in. Okay, I can actually see the questions, Tara. So I see one that Dick Galloway asked, how much time do you normally need to publish our blasts? So we do ask that you allow about 3 days advance notice for when, if you want a blast to go out on a Thursday, Monday at the latest would be appreciated. If it is something that is more urgent, then, you might also want to email affiliate support, or call the office and let me know, hey, we really need this blast to be turned around ASAP. The only thing is that if we have a national blast going out, if it's Monday and Monday night, and you call at 5 p.m. and you want it to go out the next day, but we have a national blast scheduled, that's going to be a situation where we won't be able to do what you need. But we might be able to get it out on Wednesday if that's an open day. So we usually only send national blasts out 2 to 3 times per week. So, just kind of assume like maybe every other day or so that there's going to be a national blast. So that's why we want some advance notice. But again, if it's urgent, give me a call or send me an email to affiliate support. So Sue Kirchmeyer asked, I don't know how to upload a photo or image. So, that's something I can show you. So basically, if you have the image saved on your computer and you're back on that screen, let me show you again real quick. Let's see. So hopefully this will load quickly. Yeah. So when you're in your submit email blast request page here, you'll go over here. And so if you're uploading a picture, it has to already be saved onto your computer. And it needs to be like a JPG is usually what they are, JPEG, sometimes they're PNG. Any of these can be attached. You can also attach a flyer. I didn't mention that. You can attach a flyer, all kinds of stuff. But the picture, so I have, here's a picture I have, and then I just click on it there, and then I would upload it. The other way that Greg alluded to that maybe I just was afraid I was going to confuse people too much, but I should show you how to do this, is if you're in here and you're making your blast and you want it to come after, a paragraph and you want to put a picture in there, then, well, let's see. So, okay. Maybe this is something that we could talk about offline. I think it's probably better to just upload the pictures to me because I think I might actually have a different screen than you all have because of my permissions. I'm not totally sure, but this maybe was a part I wasn't well prepared for, so I'm sorry about that. Oh, did you show how to add color to text? Well, okay, that's a great question. And to be completely honest, I have more experience on my side of Hive, where I make blasts directly out of Civi, which is kind of where this gets routed through, and it has more options. And I am actually a little stumped here because it doesn't show a color option. Keon says you can't. Okay. So, so one thing that you could do is prepare the blast into a Word document if you wanted to do that. It might lose some of the formatting, but you can keep it simple and not get too fancy with the fonts and just keep kind of the normal Arial fonts, and I can translate that for you. So in that case, you wouldn't do anything in here, but you would just attach your Word doc from your computer. So that's another option if you wanted to jazz it up. So thanks, Keon, and sorry for not realizing that before I did this. I see more Q&A, so I'm going to pop over here. Okay. Lawrence Abbott asked, can we do a statewide blast soon to the California Senate? Absolutely, yeah. So, you know, this is just another scenario where we would want a few days notice. But you can definitely set up a blast to go out to the entire state. And so, yeah, you can absolutely do that. I hope I answered that question, but that's a really straightforward blast that we would definitely recommend doing, and, you know, putting their pictures in there. And yeah, I know y'all are lobbying Harris and Feinstein, which is very exciting. Sue asked, during our legislative session, how quickly could a blast go out? It's just, you know, it's basically the norm is we need 3 days notice. And if you need it more urgently, get in touch with us and let us know. Let's see. Larry asked, would your office do this type of thing? I mean, we do really kind of need our affiliate folks to be doing this wherever possible, because our capacity, we're, you know, to do statewide blasts. I mean, we are in California, so, you know, maybe because we're, you know, but no, I mean, generally we wouldn't create blasts on your behalf. So we would ask that you all do that. But if you absolutely can't, and there's nobody who can, you know, then, you know, but our preference would be that you all do that, and then we'll process it. So Dick Galloway asked, you focused on short info. What about more educational information that might take more time, like on Facebook, where it only shows the first few lines of texts and then it says read more? I think in those cases, you might want to hyperlink. You don't want to send blasts that are just like, there isn't a way to read more. You might want to hyperlink to, maybe there's something you want them to read that's more in depth. Maybe, you know, there's you know, a piece that was written that, you know, is filled with really good information. You would just want to hyperlink that in there, but you want your blast to be as kind of succinct and clear as possible, and not just long paragraphs. Let me just take a look here and let's see. Okay, Keon just said something, and maybe I should have had Keon a little bit more involved, because he does know a few things that I don't. So he said you can upload pictures in the attachment field, but you can also upload pictures into the message field. Easy enough. You can click on the image icon, click on Browse Server for a pop-up window to appear, and in the upper left of that window, click upload. Well, okay, so that might be a little bit too much detail, but I think I know what you're saying, and I can go back and try that and show folks. So, okay, I see that, Larry, and yeah, a letter and a call script is a great idea. Again, our preference would be that you all do that, but if there's nobody who can, then, you know, get in touch with us. Linda in Missoula asked, is there any maximum number of blasts you recommend, say, per month? I mean, I would say like once a week, you know, would be maximum. Most people don't really have capacity to do that many, but if you can, and you have, you know, calls to action that you can include and can kind of mix it up, and maybe one is a event notice and another is an urge to call your senators, and another one is a, you know, invitation to join at a tabling thing, you know, like, you know, as long as it's kind of different types of blasts, you know, I would say weekly would be awesome. Bi-weekly is probably what would be more doable for most groups with their capacity. And Mary Sealing asked, how can we find out which zip codes are in our local category? You can email me and ask me, because we based that, it was actually when we switched over to HIVE, we kind of asked everyone to redefine their group, I think. especially folks who had like a radius, because the radius feature wasn't working at first, but I think it is now. So if you want to call me and ask me, I can give you that list, but it was based on something that you all told us at some point. But we can definitely talk about that and confirm and verify that that list still makes sense and is relevant. Okay, so Keon gave me enough to go back, and I was a little flustered, and I actually know how to do this, but I just got a little scattered. So let me go back, and I'm going to give you all one more tutorial of adding a picture into your email blast. And my apologies for not having it together really well on that. So we want to say things, and then we want to add a picture. So we click on the little picture, and then we browse server. Okay. So then do you see where it says upload? I think that this is right. I hope I'm doing this right. Okay, Keon says I'm doing great. So click upload, choose file. I don't know what all these pictures are, but here's one that is funny. That I used at some point because I wanted to roll my eyes about something. So then I think I upload. And there it is. That was me probably having commentary about something that was going on and sharing it with someone else. So let's see. Keon, I'm going to look at your instructions again. And then you would click the image. Okay. So there it is there. It's the URL. And then you click OK. And there it is. And it's in there. Yay. Thank you so much, Keon. I'm glad you were there with me on that. So that works a little bit differently on our end. And that was something that I probably should have walked through prior to doing this. I don't actually spend a lot of time on this end of things. So, okay, so that shows you how to do that. And then, you might not remember how that worked. And forgive my very weird sense of humor. And so I'm happy to show folks how to do that. Keon is as well. Any of us could walk you through that again if that didn't make sense. And so, just know that there's different ways to add pictures in, and we will be happy to show you any of this again. But it's good to just have a walkthrough and get familiar so that you can start really sprucing up your email blasts and making them look really slick. So are there any other questions? Okay, well, I really appreciate you all so much for joining this webinar and for being patient as I did my very first webinar, and for allowing me to do 3 different, thankfully on the 3rd try we got it right, not very great tutorials on the inserting picture, but we figured it out. And so anyway, I think that's it. Any follow-up questions that you all have, you can email affiliate-support. I see one more question coming in. So Sue asks, could we have a national blast held for our state when we need to do a legislative alert if necessary? This is going to be on a case-by-case basis. So it kind of depends on what the national blast is. So just call the office and let us know if this is a situation that you're in, and we can talk about that. It's just it just kind of depends on what the national blast is, and if that national blast is also urgent and timely. So, but yeah, that's something that we could talk about on a case-by-case basis. Usually we wouldn't preempt a national blast, but there are going to be some situations where maybe we would, or maybe we would send out both on the same day. That's just something we try to avoid. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and close out this webinar, and I hope that you all feel like you learned some things and have some ideas of maybe some new ways that you will reach out to your base and engage them. And if you have any questions, you know how to reach me, affiliate-support@movetoamend.org. And you can also call our offices, and you know the number, but it's 916-318-8040 for questions or urgent blast needs, etc. Thank you all so much, and I will talk to you all soon, hopefully. Have a great night.